It feels good to be able to walk out of this anime every single week feeling just as excited as when I finished an episode of the first anime, the first Madoka Magica. A lot of times when we get these like sequel slash spin-off slash alternative routes, whatever it is, whether it's a movie, whether it's a TV series, an OVA, it never can live up to the magic that you had when you first experienced it. But this alternative version of Madoka, I have to say, gives me the same wonders but also new excitement that I never knew I wanted to see, such as a city that basically twists the formula and the rules that we've come to expect with witches and magical girls completely on its head when you have a cult-looking group saying that you don't need grace seeds and they're controlling witches and the ability slash curse maybe that we've seen with Tamaki, they too have. There is so much unknown about the mechanics, and for someone who's experienced this show before, with the original and of course the sequel movie, I thought I knew exactly what I was getting into, just maybe the character stories themselves would be slightly different. And while that is true, at the same time, I can't accurately predict what mechanics are happening and how they're working and how they're exactly operating, and that's a really fun feeling. So whether you're brand new to the franchise or been enjoying it for many years now, it still feels like it's fresh for everyone involved, and that's a really fun feeling. One thing that's been very fun to me is how they've clearly been incorporating game mechanics, but it not feeling like a game mechanic. We've seen a few different times now in the middle of a battle where the two magical girls would come into contact, they basically like link hands, and clearly it'd be a form of power-up, which clearly is a game mechanic. I don't remember the name of it, but I know that's something from the game, but it doesn't necessarily feel like one. A lot of times with a mobile adaptation, what you see on screen, you're like, yep, that's clearly a gacha mechanic, or it's clearly this or that. But here, it naturally blends into the fight scene at hand, because if these characters are magical girls, they have power, a special weapon, it does make sense that they could combine their abilities into a more super power or super weapon, something like that. And the fact that we have a girl who's basically just, we think is so pure and then just gets corrupted and turns into an even more powerful abomination, like that's clearly another mechanic, but it's really nice to see how they're incorporating it into an actual anime story, an anime element, rather than us just feeling like this is a gacha game. It easily could have. I mean, more times than not it does, but I love how even though it does have that safety blanket of being a Madoka project that they could probably get away with a lot of sloppy designs and fans would probably still eat it up, myself included, they didn't go that route. They made it feel like an anime first and foremost, and that's the most important thing when you're doing an adaptation. I know a lot of people, they want things to be to the book, to the page. Obviously, they're a little more lenient when it comes to a game because it's not as easy to translate, but an anime needs to be an anime first and foremost and do what's best for the medium in question, and I think they're doing a great job with that. I mean, Felicia and just what she's dealt with, I think it was the perfect way to kick off the episode, really showing the torment that she went through as a young girl, seeing just the rage that filled her up, and that's something that has been kind of missing from this project, that pure rage of magical girls and just, why they hate the witches and the curse that they're now a part of. So it's nice to see a character who's very similar to characters we see in the original cast, such as Kyoko, and just that rage-filled guilt and resolve and just wanting to really push back and kill these witches, which is why the very end of the episode is so impactful, is that, like, why are you telling me that I have to suppress my anger? Because anytime she sees a witch, she goes berserk, and obviously that's not a great thing, but it's not a horrible thing either, because yeah, you want to kill the witches, but at the same time, you don't want to put yourself or others in danger to do so. So it's nice to see how they're actually naturally building this friendship, rather than it just feeling like they're becoming friends or acquaintances just because they're one of the main characters in the show. It actually does feel genuine in terms of how the bonds are being built, and it gives a multi-dimensional layer to it, where it feels like characters are fighting for different things, whether it's a long-lost friend who comes up and apparently is a leader of a cult, or you can't find your sister, or you're wanting revenge for what happened to your family. All these different personal stories, it feels very nice to see how they're linking together, and whether the end of the episode was because of that lucky water or just a natural coincidence, they now are all a part of the same boarding house, and that's going to be really fun to see where they're going to take it with the final 6 episodes of this first season. And that's really fun to me. I mean, there's so many elements that you can look at and think that has to be because of this mechanic or this rumor or this or that, but you never totally know because of magical girls in this world. There's so much uncertainty, and that uncertainty is both unnerving, but also a fun factor to the show to always keep you on your toes. Once again, though, I have to say, this episode, it was a pretty action-packed episode. There was a lot happening, a lot of witches and just arts and crafts, just every which direction, and you're thinking to yourself, what are we seeing and how are they going to deal with it? And are you kidding me? Both Kyoko as well as Felicia are joining the crazy bastards? I mean, sure, why not? Let's see what's gonna happen. And then almost immediately they recognize, like, yeah, this is a little too crazy for me. I mean, I just really wanted to survive and I need to kill some witches, but if you're gonna, like, actually hang out with witches, I'm gonna just jump sides. I love that little moment. It was not, like, necessarily a comedic relief moment, but it kind of felt like one just because you just see, like, are you kidding me? You guys are really gonna, I guess Felicia kind of makes sense, and I guess you want to kill witches. Yeah, sure. But at the same time, I'm just kind of questioning, like, do you really want to do this? And then once the battle starts getting going, and you're like, okay, yeah, they recognize they're crazy, and I'm glad they jump ship almost immediately. It's nice to see that, the characters as a whole, and something that I really enjoy, is how full of life this series has become. Now, I know there are some criticisms that there is a lot of characters in this show. We see some characters we don't even learn the names of, we just know they're a magical girl, and that is that. But I actually think that's a major positive for this show. Something that I both loved but also could see the potential of doing differently about the original was it was a very close-knit group. It was a handful of magical girls and that was that for the most part. With this, of course, we have our handful of dominating and focal characters, but at the same time there's plenty of side characters and just many people a part of the city that just make it feel full of life. We don't need to know details about every single character in this city. The fact that this city has kind of like lured pretty much every magical girl in existence to it because of the enormous amount of witches and just certain mysteries that they can't accurately predict, it makes total sense that we are just going to walk down the street and there will be other magical girls that aren't going to be a plot device or a plot-centric character, but just a part of the city. And in doing so, it makes this city actually feel like a character itself. A lot of times settings can just feel like a backdrop of just where the characters are interacting, but the entire anime has been built up about this city breaking our expectations. Why can a character seemingly turn into a witch but then turn back to human? That never could happen before in the anime that we've seen. Why is it that you can do these new combination abilities? Is it something relating to the city? Why don't you need grief seeds apparently in the city if you join up with the cult? There's so many uncertain moments that the city itself feels like a character, and in doing so, it allows for it to feel full of life, so we see so many different magical girls. It really does make it feel full of life, unlike with the original, which isn't a diss towards the original. The original had a different idea and tone and theme that it was going for, and that's perfect. But the fact that they went in the complete opposite direction with this show, a really big positive. It's not trying to copy what made the original great, but doing something differently that fans would naturally want to see. Something feel complete opposite of the isolation we saw before, but still giving it that horror atmosphere, knowing that so much uncertainty and bad things can happen, and I'm really enjoying that. It's both a great thing to just see so many characters that I'm just like, wow, there's actually things happening outside of the central cast. It actually makes it feel like a real city, and then when we focus in on the characters we actually do get to know a decent amount of, it's nice to see how many potential just points of views that we can focus in on, and it's not just Tamaki's show, right? All these characters have a goal that they're basically searching for, and it's nice to see how characters are actually getting the chance to shine outside of even the main supporting cast and just things like that. It's something that I can understand why people may be a little put off because there is so many characters, but at the same time, I think it is important to look at it in the bigger picture. Had this just been a city with a mysterious element of characters being able to turn into witches and things like that, we would pretty much just have a copy and paste of the previous anime with a new mechanic here and there. But actually doing the complete opposite in terms of a setting than what we saw with the original, it really does give it a different flair and flavor that I think is really important, and once again is another big positive that this show has going for it. People will of course love the presentation. It perfectly matches what we loved about the original, and the soundtrack is eerie, it's atmospheric, it's almost like this gothic horror, and the voice actors are doing a great job. Look at Felicia at the end of the episode. She was breaking down, and you felt really bad for her, like, yeah, she's right, why do I have to suppress my urge to want to kill witches? Like, that is kind of their job, and kind of if they don't do it, they will die themselves. There's a lot of emotional elements, but I think those smaller elements are the reason that this anime is really dominating this anime season. That it doesn't feel like a copy and paste of what made Madoka Magica great, but rather took the fundamentals that they need to be there in terms of magical girls, witches, the beautiful and unique presentation that is not comparable outside of Shaft's production, but they also did so much new all at the same time that I don't view this as like, a side story that usually you'd go for the original first, but I kind of feel like anyone after completing this anime, I feel like when people are going to rewatch Madoka Magica, they're going to watch both of these, because it feels so good, but so different all wrapped up into one, and the fact that this episode was really about breaking the cast down, separating them, but then mending them, and kind of bringing them back to a much better and stronger stopping point, it really does have a lot of potential going forward in the remaining episodes. And I mean, if you watch after the credits, there's a magical girl calling for help, it seems like, so like there still definitely is a lot of potential, and the fact that, a character that they were searching for they thought was dead or just gone is a leader or a big figure in this cult that is apparently trying to control witches, like, that is going to be very, very bad, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Tamaki's sister is a part of it or something even worse. Like, there's a lot of potential to go with the narrative, and it's making it a very compelling experience. I thought this was a great episode of this anime. I mean, it just feels like I don't think they could do much wrong at this point in time. The only thing that would be slightly disappointing is if an entire episode was just them cooking or something like that. That would be a little distracting, but besides that, I don't think there is too much that they could really do wrong. I think they've kind of laid out most of their cards on the table in terms of how dark they want to go with it. We can obviously piece together in our head how twisted it could become, how optimistic it could become, and the mechanics just continue to evolve, so it really does give it a lot of possibilities, which is a good thing. It makes it hard to predict, and in doing so, makes the adventure and the wait for each episode all the more memorable. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, be it for game players, anime originals like myself, whatever you feel, and do let me know. Remember, leave a like if you did enjoy, and be sure to subscribe if you have been new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.